So, those Nintendo Switch 2 pre-orders. I think it's safe to say that that was absolute chaos. And that this might be one of Nintendo's most popular launches to date. Now, I did secure a pre-order, and I will be talking about my experience through that. But there is a lot that happened throughout the internet from people trying to pre-order this thing, and we're going to talk about all of it, everyone's experiences. We're going to kind of rank how each retailer did, what they could have done better, and what you should do if you did not get a pre-order. So let's get right into it. Hello and welcome. My name is Wolfy. You're watching Lesser Than Cake, the gaming channel that talks about video games and video game stuff. Right now it's Switch Central because, you know, the Nintendo Switch is everything. But we do have an Oblivion video coming up soon. So if you're not subscribed, maybe consider subscribing to see that stuff. So the Nintendo Switch 2. What happened the night of? So for me, I am located on the East Coast, which means that it was midnight for me. Now, luckily, I am a night owl. I am literally recording this at 1 a.m. despite me having work in the morning. I am up around this time anyway, so I really didn't have to like wake up, be groggy, and deal with that. That's the one benefit that I had going for me being on the East Coast. West Coast, I believe it was like 9 o'clock. So it was a bit more reasonable for them. Our retailers, though, 12 o'clock. So my strategy going into this was that I was going to focus on one retailer. There was Walmart, Target, and Best Buy that were all going to be going live at the exact same time. I focused in on Target because I have familiarity. I have an account that's got a proven history, which means that I wouldn't get filtered out from their back end. And I also have knowledge on how everything works in their system. So I was like, I'm comfortable with Target. I know it's going to be a pain, but I'm going to do that. So 12 o'clock rolls around. I'm already on the site. I'm already on the spot with the Mario Kart Switch bundle, and I'm on the section with the regular bundle. And I'm refreshing both tabs, kind of aggressively trying to get the pre-order to pop up. And the second it hit 12, a gray Target logo showed up, and they immediately sold out. Like literally could not add to cart. But I knew that was a bit of a red herring because they actually didn't. They just hadn't loaded the quantities into the system yet. And the quantities literally loaded within a second later. And I had actually added both of them to the cart because the regular one popped up first and then the Mario Kart one popped up second. So I removed the normal Switch without the Mario Kart from my cart. And I noticed that the delivery window was anywhere between June 5th and June 11th. And that's not going to work for me because I need it like day of. So I noticed there was a little drop down that I could select. It was really not obvious, but there was like a same day express shipping option. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to select this one because this is in my cart. And the way the Target system works is if it's in your cart, it is reserved for you. And until it is either dropped from your cart, which you will see on your side, or you relinquish it, you have it. And it's roughly around an hour that something is allocated to a cart, hour, 2 hours, depending on the item. And I think with the Switch 2, it was a little bit faster, but I was already at the checkout process. And once you're there, the system is like, okay, you have this is reserved for you. So I went to the drop down and I selected the express option, which was an additional $10 in shipping. Not the worst upcharge that I could have paid for. So I'm happy at that. But after paying that, I got a new date of June 5th to June 5th. So it is guaranteed for launch day. I get to the checkout screen and I have my info already loaded and preloaded into the app. I hit checkout. An error has occurred. There's no errors on this thing. I hit checkout again. An error has occurred. And checkout again. And it still kept happening. It kept happening over and over again. So then I open up the app and I try to check out there. And then it gives me a more detailed error on the app where it says, hey, due to the heavy volume, we can't process all these orders at the same time. Can you hit checkout again? So I did. And I kept doing that over and over and over again. This went on for about 10 minutes. And I'm like, what's going on? Do I not have a Switch? Do I have a Switch? The way that I know that the system works, one of them is in my cart and I'm at checkout, which means that it should be allocated. So their payment processor is just completely shot at this point. I go ahead, I log into YouTube, and I start watching somebody's live stream in which they're like, yeah, we're having this issue here, obviously. But they were in line at Walmart. And Walmart had a queue system that like literally filtered out bots like before they even were able to add it to the cart, and then allowed only a couple people to check out at the same time. So if you got in line at Walmart, which did start, by the way, before midnight, the queue started, I think, an hour early. So if you had gotten in line there, you actually had a pretty high chance of getting a pre-order. Eventually, I hear somebody say on the live stream, I got one through Target. So I'm still processing it each time, and I'm trying. I couldn't get to run on the app, but I go to the site and I hit order, and I got the order confirmed. It was about 20 minutes in. So I ended up being one of the lucky ones who only had to spend about 20 minutes trying to force Target to work. I then was hit with a notification from my bank of fraud alert. And I was like, nope, this is actually me. This is not the first time I've spent this much money at 12 a.m. So I'm surprised you're reaching out. So I'm watching this live stream and I'm hearing things about people getting their orders canceled from Best Buy, Target, Walmart. And I'm like, oh no. So I'm checking my app like religiously for the next hour, making sure that my order went through just fine. Even though I had the notification from the bank and I had approved it instantly, I wanted to make sure that there were no issues. I kept checking and checking and checking and checking. Eventually it hits like 1:30, still there. And I finally get, after all of that, the email from Target saying your order is confirmed. I did a sigh of relief. I was like, oh my goodness, I actually got the Mario Kart 8 pre-order in for same day delivery. And I was hyped. My heart was racing. Things were crazy. But then I continued to watch this live stream and gather information because I wanted to know how everybody else was. And it was weird. So there were people who actually came after me who were actually had a better time with Target. And then it dawned on me what was happening. And it kind of fascinating. So Target was probably running on the back end. They have this system. They did it for the PlayStation 5. And I think they did it for the Xbox Series X as well, where if a console was heading to a duplicate location, they would actually cancel one of the orders. So that was actually happening to people. Like people were saying, my wife and I ordered, and then one of us got canceled. That seemed to have actually been happening on the back end. The other thing that was happening though is with the fraud issue, where I got the fraud alert and I answered immediately. Not a lot of people did check it immediately, or their banks weren't so religious with it. What had kind of happened is Nintendo launching this the way that they did caused a mass fraud alert across all of the banks. And it was because all of a sudden there were so many people spending the exact same amount of money that it looked suspicious. And that's the whole reason it flagged. And so there were people who had that issue. There were people whose credit cards were denying it and what they didn't know. So a lot of the cancellations were actually due to payment processing and not due to the retailers not having stock. But then there were cancellations that were done due to the filtering. And Target was not upfront about this. They're never upfront about that. In fact, even when you go to do an order pickup, they can do the same thing to you. It's a filtering process. It should be, transparent, but it's not always. So yeah, for some people, it's going to be frustrating. And hopefully this did its job and it kept it out of the hands of scalpers. But we won't know until we actually have the consoles in hand and we see how many of them end up on eBay. So now we wait. And hopefully I will have mine on June 5th. So for the other retailers, this was the experience that I gathered. For Walmart, there was a queue system. There was this thing we had to like click and hold. It was a little weird. I failed it like 4 times. I don't know if it was just bugged or what. It like spun for a while after I had done it successfully and it like didn't move, and I refreshed the page and it went away and it never came back. And it let me join the queue. I joined the queue while I was having issues with the payment processing for Target. So it literally told me there's almost no chance that you're going to get this, but hey, just sit tight. Once I got it through Target, I closed that window, but apparently the people who got into line actually had a pretty successful time doing it. And other than the issue where some of them got canceled, they were pretty flawless. Now, there is a promise that they did make that looks like it's going to be turned back on. And that was that the delivery date is not June 5th for Walmart, unless you paid for expedited shipping like I did for Target. And that was not made abundantly clear. They were advertising you can get it on June 5th if you buy from us. Did not say with an extra charge or within a certain distance of a store or anything. So that is its own separate problem. But there were a lot of people who were still able to get their pre-orders with less frustration. Best Buy apparently was the most frustrating. There was a queue system that didn't work. It was telling people you were like this many in line, and they were waiting and waiting and waiting, and it never moved. It never became pre-orderable on my side. Like the thing never showed up, and the site even crashed. So Best Buy apparently was the most difficult. And honestly, like, yeah, I've had some rough experiences with Best Buy when I bought my ROG Ally, but they apparently had a very hard time, which then leaves the last retailer who was doing it, which was GameStop. Now, GameStop, they were interesting. Their online was horrible. Crashed instantly. Arrow 404, can't get in. When it finally went there, it said out of stock, but the button was red, and so you could click it. And that actually might have accidentally prevented some bots from doing it. But I did hear that someone from, I think it was Nintendo Life, somebody was able to actually get a pre-order through GameStop online. Where GameStop was actually good, though, was the in-store pickup. Now, I have talked about it before. GameStop pre-orders have been a mixed bag. Since I got my original Switch, their policy was take as many pre-orders as you can, take care of the people who are there day one or at the midnight launch, and then take care of everybody else as they come in. This time, they knew exactly how many Switch 2s they were going to have. So the stores would post, we're going to have this many of the Mario Kart bundle, we're going to have this many of the regular. Interestingly enough, Nintendo knew that they were going to sell more of the Mario Kart bundle than the regular ones. So they literally sent them in a ratio of like 2-1. So luckily, most of these retailers had more of the Mario Kart bundles than they had just the plain Switch 2. Most stores were only getting around like 50 accumulative units between the two. And the smaller locations were getting things like 12, 13. So not a lot of units were going out per store. But they posted it, and it was on their doors before today rolled around and people would line up. The second thing they did, all stores opened at the same time. They normally have varying hours. This happened with the Majora's Mask 3DS, where I was able to secure Majora's Mask 3DS in store at GameStop because of being on the East Coast. West Coast literally didn't even have a chance to get one because they didn't allocate them separately. So by having the stores allocated, by having a set time for it to open up, which was 12 o'clock, the stores were able to prepare, the employees were able to prepare. There was a checklist that was handed out that was like, what do you want? And they were able to actually like get everything together so that the GameStops could just bring it all in. They did run into an issue though. That did cost about an hour of time for it to be fixed, where the SKUs were not lining up properly. So their internal system was not able to do it. But essentially, as long as you were in line and the number of Switches matched the people in line or exceeded the people in line, you were going to get one. And you were told up front if you were not going to be able to get one. They also limited it one per person in person by limiting it to specifically GameStop accounts with a phone number attached. That was actually a pretty good idea. Overall, from what I heard, the in-person pre-orders went well despite the extra time needed for it. So then what are our takeaways? Who are our big winners? Who are our big losers? Well, our winners are anybody who was able to actually get one of these things. And our biggest loser, I think, would be Best Buy, who lost a lot of reputation with this one. You know, it could have gone much better for them. So in order of least to most infuriating to deal with, in person, GameStop was the least infuriating to deal with, the most being how Best Buy did it. And it's followed shortly and very promptly by Target. Walmart, I think, would be on the upper end. We'll say that would be like GameStop in-store, then Walmart. Actually, then Target, then Best Buy. No, then GameStop. We'll say GameStop online was the least. So GameStop is both the first and last here. That's what our tier list is going to look like. So it's going to go GameStop in-store, Walmart, Target being the middle of the road, Best Buy, and then GameStop online, because GameStop online is the only one that crashed repeatedly and didn't even show the pre-order thing when it was even available. So those are our winners. Those are our losers. So what could they have done better? Well, first and foremost, this is to every single one of these companies: beef your online infrastructure up for these events. You know you're going to be hit by bot traffic. You know you're going to be hit with a ton of requests and a ton of payment processing. Payment processors shouldn't go down because you guys did not put enough security in it. Make sure you've got on-site IT ready to go, like for these midnight launches, and probably customer service people. Like, have people ready to help. That would be the band-aid solution for what our current reality is. There is actually a better way, and it's definitely been shown off by GameStop here. What they could have done, especially because every single one of these stores has a brick and mortar location, probably in just as many places as there are GameStops, if not more. What they could have done is Target could have said, hey, we have a midnight launch coming up. These employees are going to be needed from the customer service department to actually ring these out. We're going to allocate this much to this store, the same way that GameStop did. And then they could have done you walk in, you do the order, everything's fine. You get a little card that says my Target pre-order, whatever the heck they wanted to do to make it their thing. And then you get out the door. It would have been fine. Walmart could have done the same thing. Some of these Walmart locations aren't even closed yet at midnight. So they could have easily set it up so that their customer service table was set to do this and they had their allocations there. And that would have also worked for setting it up as an in-store pre-order and being able to limit the pre-orders to only one per customer. Best Buy, same thing. And I know you guys have the ability to order online to the store directly. It should have been locked out. Like, just, you had to go in person. Now I understand that that would be annoying for some people because some people don't live within driving distance. So instead of it being like one lump sum of consoles, it should have been an allocation to in-store pickups this way. And then maybe 2 hours later, an online drop happens. That way you're staggering it and you're staggering the traffic from in-store to online traffic. That probably would have made this a lot less painful for a lot of people because you can only wait in line physically at one store. And it would have lowered the confusion rate and the amount of people who are going to have to cancel duplicate orders because they were trying so hard to get these. Or you can do what Beat 'em Ups did and just buy all three. So there are things that could have been done better. And I really can't blame Nintendo for this because I know that these are just retailer problems, vendor problems. And vendor problems, unfortunately, they're not something that you could fix internally, which then leads me to, what should you do if you did not get a pre-order tonight? So you should have already queued up in the My Nintendo store. And that is because that had strict requirements and an account lock that was pretty good. Unfortunately, Nintendo has already said that that had an unprecedented volume to it and that some of the Switches will not be delivered by June 5th. So kind of important that you read the fine print before you order. You may not get one at launch, but you may get one close to launch. But as long as you are in that queue, you have a pretty good chance that your name's going to come up. Though I think it is a lottery system, at least it was in Japan. I don't know if it is as well in America. They are going to be staggering people in, so hopefully that's a painless procedure. If you want to get one day one, and your heart is set on it, GameStop is already sold through their physical if they don't have any pre-orders. So you can always check your GameStop, see if they get any more pre-orders in regularly. They do sometimes get new allocations, but what I would recommend is download Walmart and Target's app, maybe even Best Buy's app, and see if you can do on the night of, like I would say East Coast 12 o'clock, maybe 8 o'clock West Coast, check to see if you can place an order for order pickup. And if that doesn't work at that time, I know, try again in 3 hours. So when West Coast hits 12 o'clock, try again. Try at 8 a.m. as well. Like, you need to hit it like multiple times. The order pickups are independent to each store. So if there is something allocated for launch that isn't part of the pre-orders, it's going to be through the order pickups. And I know for a fact that that's how Target's going to do it. And I'm 90% sure that's how Walmart's going to do it because that's how they did the last few consoles. So if you are trying to secure one on launch day, give that a shot. The other thing to do is be patient. Don't dive into like scalpers. Like if the scalpers are selling these things on eBay for triple the price, do not bite, because by biting, you give them the capital that they need to buy 3 more of these. 3 more people that they're going to edge out of this, right? In-stores are going to be your best friend as opposed to onlines. Because if you see one on the shelf, get an employee, get it. Like, just done. The following weeks are going to be funky with these because there are going to be some that get brought back. There's going to be some that didn't get picked up from the order pickups. They generally empty their order pickups at the end of the night. And if it's a situation where they are emptying their order pickups, you might see one on the shelf that isn't already in the system for pickup again. So just take whatever actions you can to make sure that you are just diligently paying attention, pay attention to your emails, and just be patient. I think that with how many have been sold tonight, that there are people who have duplicates, so there's going to be restocks there. And you are going to have situations where somebody is going to forget to pick up something, you know? Always just ask the employees, be nice. Like, I can't stress this enough. You are infinitely more likely to have a favor done for you if you are nice and polite and patient than you are if you are rude and aggressive. So just be nice to the people. They're going to be going through stress. You're going to be going through stress, and just be patient. That's what I recommend. And of course, the Nintendo Store option. Go through the Nintendo Store option if you can. If you get that email, I would jump, because that would be a secured pre-order at least. So after all that craziness, you know, I'm reminded that pre-orders are a stressful situation. I have a launch Switch that I waited 3 hours to get through the line just to pick up, and it's crazy. It's even crazier now on this mostly digital age where we're doing everything online. And it didn't help that Amazon was barred from the launch. So because of that, that's a whole retailer that is completely not, not doing anything. And I don't think that these companies really prepared that well for it. It was a nightmare, but we got through it. And I'll be talking about the Switch 2 a whole lot more once I get it. But for now, that is where I'm going to end it. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, consider giving a like, maybe comment, subscribe. And I want to hear down in the comments, did you secure your Switch 2? Are you still waiting? And if you are waiting, what's your plan? Thank you guys again. Wolfy, out.